Please help us with this next session. Impart knowledge to us, Lord, and revelation. Let us get our own inspiration, revelation as we talk. Amen. Well, this is study number 1. That was the introduction. Going to be lots of images. I don't know, we've had so much to do getting this ready. Joni's got lots of images. Whether they're in the right order or I don't know. But they're all in the book anyway, so everything I say is in the book. So don't worry if there's too much information. It's all in the book, okay. I'll just put that there for the camera. Okay. So there's a quote from a book. I recommend that book, Empire of the City. But that's what this man said. It's 100 years old. This very intellectual, clever man. This is not some, conspiracy theorist. This is a very well-educated man. Running through these works, some amazing nuggets of information come to light here and there, which fitted together gradually unfold the stunning history and the legal structure of a sovereign world state located in the financial district of the loosely knit aggregate of boroughs and cities popularly known as the City of London. No incident occurs in any part of the world without its participation in some form. Well, we'll look at that. That's a quote. Now there's another quote. If anyone's old enough to remember Ralph McTell, Streets of London. Let me take you by the hand and lead you through the streets of London.
Oh, yes.
I'll show you something that'll make you change your mind. Okay. And it was showing the beggar and the different people around London. But I want to use those words. Let me lead you by the hand and take you through the streets of London. Let me show you something that'll change your mind about the British Empire. So, where are we now on the world stage of Babylon? Now we're getting into, where are we up to in 2013? Well, where are we up to in the statue of Babylon? Remember Nebuchadnezzar saw a statue, the head of gold, that was Babylon, we've looked at that. The breast of silver, wasn't it? The thighs of brass, Greece. And then we got the legs of iron, which was the Roman Empire. But the feet were part iron and part clay. That's where we are now. So we're still in Babylon. We've never finished. People say, what about the revival of the Roman Empire? It never went away. Babylon can't go away. It's always on the world stage in some form. From Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon has never gone away. It went through the empires. Now it's in the toes of iron and clay. It says, as in the days of Noah. Jesus says it'd be like the days of Noah. What were the days of Noah like? They were eating, they were drinking, they were making merry, but there's something very significant about the days of Noah. There were giants in the earth. And violence. And it says, it didn't say when Jesus comes it'll be like the days of the Acts of the Apostles. The church are looking for a world revival and we need the gifts back and the power of God. He didn't say it'd be like the Acts of the Apostles when Jesus comes. He said it'd be like the days of Noah. And they didn't know till the flood came and wiped them all away. The world and the church will not know. It'll be like the days of Noah. We'll look at it more anyway. I believe the whole church of the world will be taken over by Babylon. And they'll be deceived or forced to worship the beast. You know from my other studies that the devil's plan is not to force. The devil does not like force because he wants to be like God. Does God ever force? No. He puts you in a box for sure, but he doesn't take away your free will. And Satan wants to be like God, so he wants to deceive you, so you worship him of your own free will. He wants to be like God. He wants you to love him. Satan wants you to love him, not hate him. So he'll deceive you first. If you won't bow, you burn. The fiery furnace. But he wants you to be deceived first and worship of your own free will. When you hear all the music, fall down and worship. That's what he wants. He doesn't want the fiery furnace. That's just in case a few, the remnant won't bow and he'll burn them. But he wants it to be deception. That's how he always comes. He never comes as Satan, the accuser of the brethren. He always comes as the serpent, the deceiver. So he's got a few names, the serpent, the devil, Satan. When he becomes the devil, it's usually to deceive. He says, and the devil came and tempted Jesus. He comes as a snake to deceive you. This should set the whole scene now. if we want to know where we're at now, we need to be aware of the 3 centres of control that are already in place for the one world order. I believe in conspiracy fact. There's always been conspiracy, hasn't there? Politics is the art of conspiracy. Julius Caesar, the Ides of March, there's always been conspiracy. Assassinations. It's not new. An assassination is a conspiracy. So why are people frightened of the word? It just means a plan that the majority don't know. That's a conspiracy. I could agree with my wife, a conspiracy against all you, and we can have our secret about this conference that you don't know. That's all a conspiracy is. It's unknown to the majority. So, the first one, London. Let me tell you something about London. Let me give you a quote from Winston Churchill. I mean, I grew up to think Winston Churchill was almost God. You know, he was a great statesman. God used him, and God certainly used him, but then God used Cyrus, a despot. God uses Satan for his purposes. So God used him, but don't think he was a good man. He was an internationalist. He believed in eugenics, culling the world population. If you read about Winston Churchill below the surface, you'll find he was a very wicked man. Absolutely ruthless. Allowed millions of people to be killed. And that's what Winston Churchill said. The empire was acquired by the sword, and it will be maintained by the sword. What do you think of that for a godly man? We just went over and slew them and took over the country, and took over Africa, took over India, didn't care about it, worked them to death, and then went and got another village and carried on with the railroads. We absolutely abused people, the British Empire, because that's how they thought. That's how internationalists think. We acquired it by the sword, bloodshed in other words, and we'll maintain it by bloodshed. It's all about keeping the British Empire. The British Empire has not gone away. It's more powerful now than it was in 1948, when India started to get independence and others. It's never been so powerful as it is today, and it's run from the city of London. William the Conqueror, do you remember a little bit of history? 1066, wasn't it? Conquered the rest of England. Did you know he never conquered the city of London? The city of London made a private agreement with it and kept its independence. Well, the city of London's the centre for world finance and insurance. Fleet Street, Reuters, all the propaganda. It's not news anymore, it's propaganda. News isn't truth anymore, absolute lies and propaganda. And London's been planned for hundreds of years to be so. In 1666 there was a fire in London, I believe it was started deliberately, and it burnt London down. Whether it was or not deliberate, Christopher Wren, who was the Royal Society, you know, like Masonic Rosicrucian, all into the occult, they rebuilt London as the New Jerusalem. And they designed it on occult principles. I thought the British Empire was founded on Christian principles. It was built on Roman and Greek architecture. Now the city of London is only, I'm not talking about London itself, I'm talking about the city of London, the square mile of London, okay, I should have put a map. But it's all full of Babylonian Greek statues. These are the dragons. Did you know that dragons guard the city? When you go over London Bridge into the city, the square mile, there's dragons guarding it. Now, why would they do that if it was Christian England? If the city of London is the very centre of the British Empire, why would they put dragons guarding it? It's not angels, demons. Did you know the city of London is an independent state? It doesn't belong to Great Britain. It's absolutely independent from the government and from the nation. It's got its own coat of arms. Did you know London's got its coat of arms? Have you got that, Jody? Yeah? Right. Well, on the right one, there's the British coat of arms, a lion and a unicorn, okay? The city of London, 2 dragons. As soon as you go in the city of London, you walk down Fleet Street, as soon as you see the dragon, you're in the city, in the dragon's den. And as soon as you pass the dragons, everything changes. That's everywhere. That's the city of London. Independent from Great Britain, it's got its own coat of arms, it's got its own flag. Did you know it has its own flag? There's the flag. It's got itself, it's an independent state, people don't know. It does not belong to Great Britain. It doesn't come under the government. It's like Vatican, I'll show you that, that's the other one. Absolutely independent. The only thing I could find that would let anybody think maybe it was built on Christianity, and I'm talking about, you know, just the religion. The only thing I could find was the word honour God with the Masonic square. See, which God is that? It says honour God. That's on some gates. I took case in the bars of the gates. That's on some gates in London. It's the only mention I could find of God. Which God do you think that is with the Mason sign? That's Lucifer. Honour God. See, I'm going to show you a lot of the inventors and the people, they worshipped God, but it wasn't our God. It's like when you get to the Malaysia and look at the Bible and it says Allah for God. They say, well, Allah's the name for God. So it is, but it's a different God. That's why you need a different name. They should call it Jehovah, not Allah, because it's a different God. So because you put G-O-D, which God? That's Lucifer, honour God, honour Lucifer. There's the Masonic, you know, the dividers, don't you? That's all I could find. Stuart went round London and photographed it. I took loads of videos. I'm going to put the video clips on when we edit the video. And there's more in the book. So, we'll ask a question. Why was London rebuilt as pagan Rome? Because it's like Rome when you go in. I was a draftsman, so I understand the architecture, you know, with the pillars and always a triangle. It's like our house. You know, the old-fashioned... Why would they build it on Roman and Greek architecture if it was Christian? I don't mean the triangles of the shapes, but why put the demons all over it, the gargoyles all over the city, and all the pagans gone, Thor and Baal and Ashtaroth, all the gods and goddesses, Isis, they're all over London. Why was London built as pagan Rome? If London was the capital of Christian England, why would the flag of the city fly on the Guildhall? The Guildhall in London, right in the city. It's got the flag of the City of London. Do you know what they've got inside? They've got Gog and Magog, the demon giants. There's Gog and Magog. That's in the Guildhall in the centre of the City of London. Gog and Magog demons. Joni and I went. And we asked the curator, who was an Indian man actually, so he had no Christian background. And Joni said, what are those? Because I told Joni, and she could hardly believe it, that Gog and Magog would be in the central London. And she said to him, well, what are those? And he says, oh, that's Gog. And she says, which one's which? And he showed her. I don't know which they are,
yes,
actually.
Yes, that one, Gog and Magog.
Okay. They're different. Can you see one's got a shield, one hasn't?
Maurice, they were taking one's on that's the left.
Oh, right, okay.
The right hand side.
Right, Gog and Magog. So, she said, what? He said, oh, it's Gog and Magog. She said, yeah, what are they? She said, oh, they're the Guardian. They're the saviours of London. That's what the curator said, an Indian man. He said, actually, it's in the Christian Bible, Gog and Magog. I said, well, I know that as it happens. But fancy. They have a Lord Mayor parade and they have a big wicker. There's Gog and Magog again. That's the church of St Dunstan in the West on Fleet Street. Where are they have Gog and Magog? Does it add up to if it's Christian England? Why put those demon giants in the centre of London? I'll tell you why. Because it's ready for the one world order. Well, there's only two possible questions. Let's think about it. Why would they do it? Number one, we could say, well, England was never Christian, at least from 1066. Or number two, yes, England is a Christian-based country, but Christianity must be part of Rome. It must be number two. Yes, it is Christian England. Yes, the empire did spread Christianity. But Christianity is the religion of Rome. In other words, Christianity is just another branch of the system of Babylon. Do you understand now? Yes, it is Christian England. Yes, it did send Christianity to the world. It Babylonianised the world of the British Empire. Because that's the base of it, with the dragons and the demons. And it's my country. I don't want to knock my country. But I have to tell the truth, don't I? That's where it all comes from. So I can only, conclude the latter is true. And that Christianity is part of the religion of man. So, why would, if Christianity is the religion of Rome, I'm not talking about disciples of, I'm talking about followers of Jesus. I'm not saying if you go to church, you're part of the false religion. I'm saying the system Okay, the denominations, all the things that's not in the Bible. That's why we need to educate people and say, look, it's time to get out. People were right to be in Babylon. God said to Nebuchadnezzar, stay there, build houses, marry wives. But now Revelation says time to get out. You were born in Babylon, the church, that's where you find God. Now it's time to get out. I believe that's going to be my message. Get out of the system, don't get out of God, don't get out of, if you want to do all things, that's all right. You want to send money to the established church, pay your tithes, do whatever you want, but get out of the system, or get the system out of you. So, why would Christianity look like the real thing? Because it does, doesn't it? They worship Jesus, they pray, they have sides, everything outwardly looks the same. Why would? Well, Matthew said, Jesus warns us after preaching about the gospel of the kingdom, true discipleship. This is what he says, beware of false prophets which come in sheep's clothing. We're looking for wolves, that's why we miss them. They look like sheep, they pray like sheep, they preach like sheep, they preach truth, but they're wolves in sheep's clothing. Inward, they're ravening wolves, they're after your money. They're after status. They want to build a big church. They want to save the world. It's all about pride and ego and my church. They have their own police force in London. Did you know that? They're separate. There's the Metropolitan Police Force. On the left, that's the Metropolitan Police Force. See his cap with the checkers hat? As soon as you walk into London, the city, all the colours change. And the policemen have red caps. It's an independent police force. All right, there's some more facts about that. I don't know how we've missed those. All right. It's a privately owned sovereign state, 677 acres. That's not big, is it? But it's located in the heart of the 610 square miles of Greater London, okay? The population of the city is only 4,000. Greater London, 32 boroughs, is 7.5 million. I've got all the facts in the book, so don't worry. It's just so it gets it in your head. The Crown is a committee of 12 to 14. 12 to 14. In other words, 13. You don't want to tell you the number. 12 to 14. What's that? Who rule the independent sovereign state. All right. It's not subject to the sovereign. It's not under the rule of the British Parliament. The city is the financial hub of the world, and it's often called the wealthiest square mile on earth. The Rothschilds have the centre there. They used to set the gold standard every day. Now these Rothschilds have said, we're losing our finances now, we're not so wealthy. So a group of 8 banks decided, same cartel, it makes no difference. And H. Rothschild used to set the gold standard every day. And gold is the commodity that rules the world. There you are. All major British banks have their offices. 385 foreign banks in that little field. Few acres. 70 banks from the US are located in the city. The Stock Exchange, Lloyd's of London, Baltic Exchange, you probably don't know these, that's all the shipping contracts for the world. Fleet Street, the new papers. The London Metal Exchange, so you're talking about gold, copper, tin, uranium, trading in those. And sugar, rubber, wool. Why would Christianity look like the true church? It's simple. Babylon is not the opposite of Jerusalem. People always think in opposites. Satan is not the opposite of God, it's the counterfeit. Now that's fundamental. If you want to get that this weekend, it's not the opposite of God. It's not that God's good and the devil's bad. God's white and he's black. He's trying to be white, not black. He comes as an angel of light. Satan's transformed himself to an angel of light. So he's not the opposite of God. He's the counterfeit, so he appears the same as. And so it's obviously that the church that's false will come as the church that's true. Okay? Because the whore, the prostitute on the outside, looks like any other woman. I'm not talking about a girl on drugs on the street who looks a mess. I'm talking about a high-class courtesan, a woman who drives a Porsche, all right, and lives in a big penthouse with a lot of money, okay. She looks like a lady, she talks in an educated voice because billionaires pay for the night for her. Okay, she's not a curb crawler. Same thing, she's a prostitute, okay. But she looks like a beautiful woman. She's made up as designer clothes, drives a Porsche, and she looks like a lady and talks like a lady because a millionaire wants a lady next to him, not a scrubber. But she's got a scrubber's heart. She's a beautiful lady with the heart of a whore. It's the heart that makes a person a whore, not the body. Okay? And so, I'm not looking, but you know your Bibles, read Revelation, the whore. What she look like? John, I'll come and show you the great whore. And you're expecting this big monster? No.
No.
She's draped in gold, silver, precious stones, pearls, all the same as the bride of Christ. Can you believe it? I believe the populations of Great Britain, Western nations have embraced the religion, not knowing it's a counterfeit of a true relationship with Christ. That's the difference. If you have a relationship with God, you don't need a religion. You don't need a religion. If you know your God, what do you want a religion for? Ceremonies and forms and lighting candles and stained glass windows and let's sit and have a service and a hymn and a prayer and a... That's ritual. And you've got to pay your tithes and you must do this and you must be loyal to the local church. All the dogma and there's no rules in love. You don't have doctrines in love, do you? When you're in love, you just get on with it. You do what... Love does what it needs to do. If I've got to stand in front of my wife to take the bullet, I do it. If I've got to cry to make her happy or laugh, but you do what you've got to do. There's no rules to love or war. And if you have religion, you don't need a relationship. It's a substitute because people feel better doing things. Yeah, but I've not missed church for 20 years. I'm as dead as a doornail. I've got none of the Spirit of God in me. But I keep that seat warm every Sunday. By Jove, I'm there. I've never missed and I always pay my time. And I pray 3 times a day. Humbug hypocrite. That was the man. He said, 2 men praying. And one man said, Lord, I thank you. I'm not like those sinners out there. You've lifted me out of the miry clay. And Lord, you've put me on the rock. And I thank you I'm not that rotten sinner I was. And Jesus says, hypocrite. And the other man, he comes and he's had a bad week. He says, oh God, I've blown it. Shouted at my wife. I've ripped the boss's head off. Said some naughty words I've not said for 20 years. Lord, I'm a mess. Jesus said he went away justified. Reality. He's telling the truth. The other man is saved, he's happy, he's deceived, he's become a hypocrite. The church have sat in there and said, now you're wonderful. Never exposed his secret life. And half the people who sit in church, people don't know. There's ministers having affairs. There's men, a third of the men in a congregation are looking at pornography, track by it, and can't resist it. Nobody knows because you would know you come to church and praise God, and you love God, but you're not getting delivered. You're not getting freed from those things. Do you understand? Christianity is knowing God and getting free, not about doing the duty. Did you know that the City of London has its own Lord Mayor? If I ask you what's the Lord Mayor of London, you'll say Boris, whatever his name is. I know that because it rhymes with Morris, so it helps me.
Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson, right. Okay. He's the Lord Mayor of London, isn't he? Metropolitan London. Tell me who's the Lord Mayor of the City of London. I bet you didn't know they had one. They have their own Lord Mayor. It's an independent state. Did you know? I put it in the book. You can get a PDF and download every Lord Mayor of the City of London since 1066. Check it out. Since 1066, when William the Conqueror took over, you can check it. I'll put the website on the thing to get it. I bet if I ask 1 in 250,000, that I reckon 4 in a million may know who the Lord Mayor of the city is. Just in case you didn't know, it's Roger Guilford. That was when I wrote the book 213. I don't know when they have the election because they have a new one every year. So by now, you know, in September, it could have changed. But at the beginning of the year, when I looked up when I was at Steve's writing the book, so there you are. From 1898, you can get a PDF. I'll give you the reference, and you can check the Lord. So it's been there a long time, hasn't it? It's all powerful, the British Empire. It's really known as the Crown Corporation. It's a business. Did you know everything's a business? Did you know the police force is a business? The judicial system is a business. It's registered as a business. Did you know there'd be a political party? Conservatives? Check. It's a business. It's registered as a company. It's all about business. The courts are there to make money. The police are there to make money. It's all making money for the Crown Corporation. Registered as a business. The government is registered as a corporation. Check me out. I wouldn't be saying if it wasn't. And the Crown Corporation is the largest empire in history. Well, the British Empire was the biggest, wasn't it, in world history? And when it was overt, in other words, when it was open, we're the British Empire, it's for a century the biggest global power. At its height, it's held sway over 458 million people. A fifth of the world's population. So at today's rate, a fifth of the world's population would be 1.3 billion. Okay, that was less than. And it owned a quarter of the world's land area, a quarter. That little city of London, the British Empire. Don't you think that's amazing? The largest. Do you think, for 1 minute, that somebody who had that much power would give it away? When you have that much power over a quarter of the land's surface, and a fifth of the planet's population, are you going to, oh, India, 1 billion, you could govern yourself, Africa. Do you think they're going to give that away and give independence? They do it in name, and they put their dictator in. That's why there's so much bloodshed in Africa. Because if the dictators doesn't keep the gold and the diamonds and the uranium coming to Britain and Europe, we put another dictator in. We cause all the civil wars, ethnic cleansing. It's all to do with the Crown Corporation. To keep the commodities, to keep the wealth coming into London. Well, after World War II, it changed from overt to covert control. Now we control. We've not lost one bit of control, and in fact we've even got more, but it's done underneath now. We pull the strings. We control the dictators. I'll take them out, put them in. Well, just recently I've been to 6 different African nations that were given independence. So I'm not talking just from reference, from looking on the internet. I've been to 6 African nations recently. So I'm talking from my observation, okay. Steve and I went to Sierra Leone. Not the nice place. We went up to Kono, blood diamond country. No different than they made the film Blood Diamonds. You know, after the film it says now we've got rid of all the... They're still walking with no shoes on. 6th poorest country in the world. Billions of dollars and sterling every year come from Sierra Leone diamonds. Billions of dollars every year. And the people still have no shoes on the thing. They're a fabulously rich country. Nigeria rich in gold and oil and diamonds. But the people, the roads are despicable. They have no clean water. Why? Because we keep them poor, so we get all the gold, the silver, the uranium. It all comes to us. We control it. We cause the wars to do it in Congo. Do you know on your mobile phone, you need cobalt for your mobile phone, a mineral. They go into the Congo and there's a village and there's cobalt over there. They just wipe the village out. They say it's the rebels. Of course it's the rebels. They pay the rebels to go over. The wildlife parks in Africa are to train the rebels. That's where they train the rebels to go over the border to the next one. That's what they're for. The wildlife park. Prince Philip's not interested in wildlife, or Prince Charles. Come on, get real. They're interested in control. And that's what those parks are for. They train the rebels and they come out there. Oh, the rebels came and wiped this village. Yeah, because there's cobalt there to keep us in the West rich and decadent. Well, Steve and I went and we just had children in need. I'm not criticising that. Steve reckoned they got 500 million. It's a lot of money, isn't it, to get for Africa and people in need. You know, I never saw any of the money. Did you, Steve? I never saw it. I know they build a little model village with 20 huts in and film it and say, look what the money's done. But the ordinary people, I never saw it. If you're not sure, talk to Sharina. After the tsunami in Malaysia and that, she lives there, all the millions of pounds worth of aid come in the ships and they could put them all on the shore. And then after 3 months, they exported it to make money and the people didn't get the famine relief. Because in the Swiss banks, I've been to 6 African nations recently. I can't see all the aid that's going. I know when I went to Kenya and they told me they're asking us to accept homosexuality and abortion and all that, but we'll never do it. We're a Christian country. I said, well, I've got news for you. Yes, you will. No, we won't. I said, you will. Because already our government are saying, if you don't accept these things, we'll stop the aid. We'll stop sending them aid. We starve them out. No change. The whole world will become one cesspit. It's happening. When you travel a lot like I do, you see it happening. It's all right talking here, but when you go to India and Africa and those places, comic relief, it's great to hear things, but Terry Wogan gets $7,000 for presenting it. No one else does, but the BBC said, oh, well, we just offered it him. Why doesn't he refuse it? Why isn't he doing it for charity? For charity means for the love of it. Every time he presents it, he gets $7,000. Do you know how many starving people that have saved $7,000? And he says, thanks very much, puts it in his pocket. I'm not criticising Terry Wogan, he's what? That I've got no vendetta against him. I'm just, do you see what I mean? So much money, 80% can go in administration. Okay, let me forget about that. That's the first city you need to know about London. The centre of finance and insurance for the one world system. That's where the finance is. Okay. Right, number 2, Washington DC. That's for military control and manipulation. United States, in God we trust. Every church has a flag of America in it, don't they? Because they're ignorant. The first president of America was who? George Washington, a Mason. So if the first president was a Mason, what's happened? All right, the Pilgrim Fathers maybe were real disciples when they went across, but as soon as 13 states, isn't it funny, number 1 for it, as soon as they got 13 states together, they had a United States. That was a United States, 13 states, and the first president, George Washington, was a Mason. There he is. There's George Washington. Can you see the 2 pillars? The left one's Boaz, the right one's Jason. There's the middle. Can you see that star in the middle? Can you see the square and the compass on his apron? That's the Masonic apron. That's George Washington, the first Mason. Can you see the trowel in his hand to lay the foundation of occult United States? If you know the checkered floor, if you know your symbolism, every one of those pictures, there's amazing symbolism. The twine going round, that's the double helix, the DNA. If you know the symbolism, it's amazing. Washington, a Freemason. Well, there it is. I just got it off the internet. Anyone can get it. I've not drawn it myself. It'd be much better than that, wouldn't it? I think it looks a bit squashed, actually. It looks about my size, actually.
It's not fabricated.
Headquarter of military arm of the one world system. Did you know the USA is the largest manufacturer of arms in the world? They're trying to bring peace, aren't they? Let's smash Syria, let's get Saddam Hussein, let's get... Did you know it's big business? It's the largest manufacturer of arms in the world and supplies its allies and its enemies with weapons. That's what you do, then you make double profits. You kill each other, then you get the contracts to rebuild the infrastructure of the country that's been smashed, and you make billions out of the arms. So how much do you think a tank cost? How much do you think a fighter jet cost? We're talking millions per one. So if 50 tanks get blown up, we're talking about contract for $1 billion. This is a lot of money. It's one of the world's biggest businesses, what arms. France and England are the other 2. The war machine is one of the most profitable businesses in the world. Washington, what state is Washington in? New York's in New York, isn't it? Tulsa is in Oklahoma, isn't it? What state is Washington in? They call it Washington DC, don't they? Do you know what the DC stands for? It's the District of Columbia, Washington DC. Because there's Washingtons all over the place. There's one up in northeastern Washington. Washington DC stands for District of Columbia. Maryland and a couple of states give them a plot of land and it's called the District of Columbia. Do you know who Columbia is? Isis, the goddess Isis. Maryland gave a lot of the land. Mary. Did you know that the state of Maryland is dedicated to Mary, Queen of Heaven? That's why it's called Mary's Land. They dedicate it to Mary. Maryland. Doesn't sound very Christian to me, does it you, America? I know the Pilgrim Fathers were real, but by the time the 13 states were formed, it's absolutely taken over by the occult. It's the new Atlantis. Francis Bacon wrote about it. Every time you see Columbia films, you see, that's the Statue of Liberty. It's the same goddess, Isis, the Statue of Liberty. Can you see she's got a hand, she's got the blue drape. If you know all the symbolism, she's holding up the stars' illumination. See, she's on a plinth, the set's going up to it. Everything's symbolic. You don't need to know all that, I've had to learn a little bit. Everything's symbolic, the clouds behind, holding the torch. On the plinth, on the statue. See the sun's rays coming out of the head? See the book in her hand? And it says, liberty, enlightening the world. It's the illumination, the Illuminati. It's not the light of Jesus. It's not Jesus the light of the world. It's Satan the light of the world. There's a Capitol building. Can you see? See the pillars? That's all Greek and Roman.
Yes.
And there's a interesting thing in the triangle. But there's one of the gods. See the arrow going? That's Mars, the pagan god Mars. Why would they have gods, pagan gods in the capital zone if it's Christian America, in God we trust? It's Satan they trust. He's a god, you see. Satan's a god. And pagan architecture abounds in it. I mean, just have a look at Washington DC, some images. The whole Capitol building and everything. If you look down, you'll see the Pentagon. So I'm sure the pilgrims were disciples of Christ. But all three branches of federal government of the United States are in the district. Congress building, Supreme Court, 176 foreign embassies. It's an independent state. As its police force, as its flag. There's the Washington. Notice the 3 stars for the. This study's called the Trinity of city-states. The Trinity of. There's the 3 to show that the 3 are going to rule the one world order. London, Washington DC, and obviously I'm coming to the Vatican. 1 for finance, 1 for military power, 1 for religion. That's all you need to take over the world. You need those 3.
That's in place already.
And those are in place, so they're already letting you know. 176 embassies, a locally elected mayor and 13-member council. It's not part of America. Did you know Washington DC is not part of America? Doesn't answer to the government. It's an independent city-state like Vatican and like London. And they have a 13-member council. They governed the district in 1973. In addition to the district's own Metropolitan Police Department, many federal law enforcement agents have jurisdiction in the city as well. All right, the last one, Vatican. Well, I think you know this. You know Vatican City doesn't belong to Italy. It's independent. Did you know the people who have the real power in the world, they call themselves internationalists, which mean they don't show allegiance to any country. When I said Winston Churchill was an internationalist, what I meant was he wasn't loyal to Great Britain. They have an international plan to bring in the world order. They are not loyal to their own country. The Rothschilds are internationalists there. Bill Gates is. Many of these people, they're not loyal to their own country. They'll kill their own countrymen. They'll destroy the country they live in because they belong to the world. They're bigger than that. Our royal family, very much into the occult, very much the power. Because they're German, aren't they? The Windsors are, that's not the name, Windsor. It's a German name. They changed that when the war came. Vatican City. All right, well, I suppose you know that's the flag. Not the flag of Italy. Of course, it's going to have the cross keys on, isn't it? X marks the spot. I'll talk about X. Because we're talking about DNA this weekend, chromosomes and X. There's the cross keys. Anything with a cross on it, it's going to tell you something about the Antichrist, all right? You'll learn about that this weekend. They've got their own police force, Swiss Guard, coat of arms. They've got their own coat of arms. So this is going to be the religious capital of the one world order. I'm convinced. I suppose you know my thinking. The church are looking for one man, the Antichrist, the beast, you know. I believe there's 2 men. Because in Revelation there's 2 people rise out and they say a false prophet, which is Antichrist, and the beast is the one world dictator. So the one world dictator will be in Jerusalem because he's got to be worshipped as God. The Antichrist will not be in Jerusalem. He's going to point people to the man of sin and say he's God, he's the mediator. Do you understand? The Antichrist is like Christ to point men to God. Well, this man will point men to Satan personified. So the religious, the prophet, will be in Rome. That's the Antichrist is in Rome. The Pope will never sit in Jerusalem because he's a religious. The one world dictator will sit because he's going to be worshipped as God. Do you understand? So people get it mixed up and they think it's the same man. There's two. There's the woman, which is always the church, the whore, and there's the beast she sits upon. So there's two, isn't there? Do you understand? One's riding the beast, controlling it, or the beast is taking her for a ride. It's very difficult to separate the woman from the beast. But the beast turns on the woman and burns her with fire. So Rome, the Antichrist, will get destroyed by the man of sin. All right. Maybe you can't take all that in, but you have to read it a few times. The religious capital of the one world order. Did you know the Rothschilds run the Vatican Bank? They've been running it since 1923. All denominations, everyone that calls themselves Christian, whether it's Mormons, which we'd say is false, and Jehovah's Witnesses agrees, but Pentecostals, Charismatics, Church of England, they're all daughters of Babylon. Everyone born, I've said it before, let me say it again for the camera, every baby born of a whore is a virgin, not a whore. The mother's the whore, the baby's a virgin. And it grows up a virgin, and as it gets old, it decides, do I want to follow my mother and be a whore, or do I want to stay pure? Have a choice. So every revival, every time God speaks to people, and they come out of Babylon, do you understand? Because Babylon's the whore. So every time there's a revival, and they get pushed out, Martin Luther never wanted to leave the Catholic Church. That was his church. He wanted to reform it and make the whore into a beautiful woman. He saw the church was a whore, so he tried to change it. Of course, what happens? They throw him out. John Wesley never wanted to leave the Anglicans. He didn't want to be a Methodist, he was an Anglican. So he tried to preach the truth, and the Anglicans threw him out. The birth, the whore gets rid of the baby. If there's a new baby, it can't stay in the whore. It'll kill it. Think about it. If the baby's growing inside you and you don't birth it, it'll kill you. You can't let it grow inside it, it's got to get it out. It'll kill you. And the dead church, if the baby's alive in it, will kill the mother. The mother doesn't want to be killed, so she forces it out. John Wesley got forced out and birthed a revival, and it was pure. But John Wesley was dying on his deathbed. The people who'd been helping him look after it were having a vote and a debate and an argument who'd take over. Where's the fasting and praying? And the Holy Ghost said, separate me. The rot had set in before he died. Became the Pentecostals. That's only 1906. Now it's jobs for the boys at the top. Now they're official bankers. Now they're building an empire. It's Babylon, for sure. But it didn't start off like that. So they're all branches, they've all gone back to Babylon. It doesn't matter what the name is, does it? Did you know the Hindus are just another branch of Babylon? The Buddhists are just another branch of Babylon. The Masons started the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons. Joseph Smith was a Mormon. The man who wrote the Schofield Reference Bible, he was into all sorts. Cyrus Schofield. Yeah. If you check the history of these men, it's a counterfeit, not the opposite. Don't be looking for the opposite. It's very, very close. So, I'm going to be talking about the devil's plan. And it's, Johnny often criticises me and says you're too explicit. That maybe I am, it's difficult, but you know, reproduction is very, very important to God. Very, very important. The first thing God says will be fruitful and multiply. Now, to be fruitful, you've got to join male and female, haven't you? We understand that. So he said, be fruitful. So that's very important. Reproduction is very important to God. Everything reproduces, the grass, the fleas, the birds. You can't look at anything that's living that doesn't reproduce okay. So if the devil's the counterfeit, is going to be very interested in reproduction. But it's a counterfeit. And he's trying to produce a counterfeit to the sons of God. I mustn't give too much away. But every one of these places you'll find the dome, which is the womb, and you'll find the obelisk. If you don't know what an obelisk is, it was the Egyptian thing, but it's actually a phallus. If you don't know what that is, it's in a erect penis, okay. And the devil puts it everywhere. Whenever you see an obelisk, they're all over the country. On graveyards, if there's a mason dies and he's wealthy, you'll find the obelisk. And it's all about reproduction. The whole Babylon system, they worship the sun. I'll be talking about it, but they worship the sun. Well, the sun is the male. The earth is Mother Earth, not male Earth. Why do we call it Mother Earth? Because when the sun comes down to the earth, it produces green, life. That's all. That's why witchcraft worship Gaia, Mother Earth. And the sun, because the sun and the earth together produce life. That's what it's about, reproduction. All witchcraft is all about reproduction. I saw a man who was very high up in the Masons. He says, really, the Masonics is about sex. He didn't mean sex, he meant reproduction. So every one of these cities has to say, let me show you. Notice the dome. Why is there an obelisk nearby? Notice it in direct line. Notice it's in the circle. Whenever you see a circle with a dot in, that's the male and the female. I've got to be explicit, but in occult, that's what it's like. There's the obelisk. And there's the dome, talking about sons of God meeting the daughters of men. It's all about reproduction, to produce this race of people that will live forever. I'm saying no more than that, you'll get more tomorrow. All right, what about Washington, D.C.? These are the three centres. Now that's the other perspective. Instead of there's the obelisk very big. Notice the triangle on the top, the capstone. That's the phallus, that's it. There's it in line with the dome. Now, is that by chance? Why they built the same? Why is the Vatican, it's Catholic, and the Americans who are Protestants, why have they got exactly the same, the dome and the phallus? Because it's all one. It's all one. And there's always water, the reflection. As above, so below. So they often have water. If you look between the obelisk and the city, there's water because of the reflection. That's the thing, as above, so below. Okay. And London. Well, there's the obelisk on the Thames. Yeah. Did you know that came from Egypt? That's Cleopatra's Needle, they call it. Cleopatra's Needle. That's on the Thames, okay? You'll find the sphinxes are next to it. What have we got sphinxes for? Half man, half... That's a hybrid, if ever there was one. Demons mating with women and producing half animals, half... It's a lion and a woman, isn't it? The sphinx is there. There's the obelisk. And then further over in the city, it's all there, is St. Paul's. Well, you know St. Paul's has got the dome on it. Because it's the New Jerusalem. They're all built. In Jerusalem, you've got the dome of the rock. So these three city-states have been set up over the last couple of centuries, really, for world domination. All right. Which one will be the head? The finance, the military, or the religion? Well, I think it will be the finance, because finance certainly controls politics, and it controls religion. Money runs Rome, the wealth of Rome. So maybe they all run in tandem, but often as well, I think that the City of London will be the most important city in the one world order. That's what I believe. The others may seem, America, Washington may seem the more powerful because that's the military. And Rome may seem more because it's religious. But underneath, who's pulling the strings, who pays the bills? Do you understand? Finance rules the world, doesn't it? And so I believe it will, because it's the British Empire, not the Italian Empire, not the US Empire. The British Empire. We control the world, and we've never... Did you know that London runs America? No president goes in America unless we say so.
The root of all evil.
The root of all evil, wasn't it? Yes, didn't say religion's the root of all evil.
Love of money.
The love of money, yeah, greed. Yeah, doesn't say religion's the root of all evil, does it? Don't say arms is war's the root of all evil, it says money. Because war is to make money for the people they start with. Nobody wants a war. Nobody wants a war. But it makes money. It keeps control, you see. All the wars are to keep control. If you look at the wars over the last 200 years, every single one was only started to maintain the British Empire. The Boxer Wars in China, got a China lady here, it was to keep the opium trade going with Great Britain. Mao Zedong was putting by the capitalists. Communism's only a front. You'll see China was the experiment for the One World Order. Right. We've finished. Trinity, City of States. It's important to know those three. Whether it'll be visibly so, London, I don't know. I'm not saying it will be. I just feel it will be. So, I've put to think about here, but I've covered it. Antichrist will sit in Rome, and the man of sin, the beast, will sit in Jerusalem. But next study in the morning, Europe the template.